Hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another video or update, or rather an interesting change of pace, because in today's video I really want to just dedicate this to really anyone out there that might either be unemployed or underemployed, or maybe they are employed but they're really just trying to save up money, whether this is for a future just major thing that they want to explore or enjoy, or in many cases it's just out of survival actually. Because I do know at the end of the day is that there are obviously a lot of people that are still going through a lot of things. So definitely feel free to comment if you guys have any personal stories, or honestly just really anything to share. But the big idea is that regardless of what it is, in today's update, I really just want to talk about several tips to really be able to save money. Everything that we mentioned in today's video are things that I've personally done, so they are not necessarily things that will come from an article. So hopefully there's some originality, or certainly at least in the sense that there's a personal touch to it. And I think that's the really cool thing. So, and some of these, again, I think they're things that I also haven't really seen a lot of people talk about, so maybe it's just like my personal secrets that you may or may not have heard. But the idea is hopefully it's going to be something that's going to be insightful, that can really help a lot of people right now. Feel free to share this. So with that being said, we're gonna get started, but as always, same exact drill, 10 really quick seconds. Remember to smash the like button if you guys hopefully enjoy videos like this. Feel free to subscribe and hit the bell if you guys are interested. Huge thanks if you guys already did and you guys are coming back here. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, personal thoughts, or maybe honestly just any particular opinions about just this video in general, because we are still kind of, again, exploring different topics, anything that you guys would like to see. And if you guys would like to see more similar videos like this about just, instead of just general news updates, also about just actually physically surviving based off of what we can physically do at this time. But with that being said, of course, let's get this video started. So the first tip really to be able to maybe start and share is that in order to try to save money, you probably also want to start. And by the way, again, everything that we mentioned is going to be dedicated to if you are someone that has either very low income or maybe even no income because you're unemployed, but you hopefully have some savings and you're trying to really be able to maximize every last dollar. But the first tip that we're really going to share is that in order to try to save money, you probably really want to actually be able to actually physically keep track of what you're even physically buying, so then you can see that where are the best places to cut expenses. Now there are obviously some necessities that it's very difficult to cut, but there are definitely tricks which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But the big idea is to just write down almost everything that you typically buy. You can use Excel, or if you're more traditional, you can just use pen and paper. I personally use Excel, where I have a spreadsheet and I actually physically write down almost everything that I buy, so I can see what's a necessity, what's not needed, and you can really be able to mark it up. And that's really just more of an activity and assignment to maybe get started. But of course, there are also a lot of things that you really cannot necessarily cut because they are necessities. So for example, the second tip is going to be about everything related to food, because food is obviously something that we really can't do anything about because we all need it to live. So when it comes to handling food and trying to save money, probably the best tip I would say is that the first one is to really try to limit eating outside. Because a lot of times eating outside, simply put, it's just very expensive. This is even more true if it has to be in a restaurant, because I know, for example, where I'm at in New York City, this is even more true right now because a lot of costs have actually risen very significantly. Actually, there are many places that I used to go for lunch where you could literally get a reasonable lunch special or something for, let's say, under $10, and things have actually gone up by sometimes between 10 to even 20% now. In many cases, I feel like when I go out for dinner, I have to be prepared to spend at least $20 now at almost every typical restaurant in New York City. So the big idea is that when it comes to things like spending money outside, having to spend money outside, alcohol, everything like that, and then on top of things, especially like tip, tax, all of that stuff, it can be really expensive. So the best way to really combat that is, the first tip really maybe is to maybe consider cooking a lot of your meals. Typically, if you happen to be a good cook, you can definitely potentially save a lot of money like that, because it is definitely a lot cheaper. Even though groceries have risen a lot significantly in prices, it is definitely still at least cheaper, thankfully, than eating at restaurants in most situations. I believe if you are watching this on release date, the inflation report just came out yesterday, and it's been reported that apparently we experienced about 8% inflation. So that is a lot of extra money. That's about, well, let's just say that this is average 8%, but it doesn't even show you the breakdown of what it is, because there's many food products that have actually gone up much more, like closer to 15%. So this is just really a huge trick. Definitely consider other ones related to food would be certainly to potentially get on food stamps. This was something that, again, I also had to do back then. Consider also trying to maybe even eat food through a lot of nonprofits and food drives, churches. A lot of places sometimes even give away free food to be able to help out. This kind of goes on to maybe one of the last videos, which I'll put on the end screen, which is really just talking about like surviving if you're currently struggling financially, about 4 tips. And that's one of the things we talked about. Definitely check it out if you guys are interested. I'll put it at the end screen. There's like a white background, a picture of me, and I'll put it on the top part. So definitely check that out. The second thing is really about just purchasing any kind of physical product that you might potentially need. So examples of this could be like clothing. At the end of the day, I think it's very fair to say we need clothes to be able to get out there. Certainly, especially if you live in a cold climate place, there's, a lot of things, shoes, and, anything that we typically actually need, for getting through. So the big idea really for this is that the best way to really be able to save money on that, honestly, would really be to be able to just consider just trying to really compare prices, or also to use coupons. That's actually one of the very, very big things. So I know, for example, like whenever I go to many places right now to go shopping for any kind of physical products, one of the things that you can sometimes do is really just to be able to look online to see if you can find a coupon. Maybe if I see a specific resource, I'll maybe try to link it down below somewhere. But the big idea is that many, many stores, especially chain stores, will do discounts throughout the years. They will still, do coupons, whether this is online or in-store exclusively. There's also many stores that sometimes do reward programs. And in many cases, sometimes you can even go to some stores and physically even ask the employee to see if there's a coupon that they can maybe lend you of some kind. This is especially something that I actually haven't really seen a lot of people do. I think a lot of times from what I've seen, when people look and go shopping, they see everything at face value. Maybe some people might upgrade and actually try to look to see if there's a sale going on or what's on the clearance section. But I think taking it a step further is potentially just asking. Literally just asking a lot of store employees whether or not they have a coupon. And I can tell you is that there are many stores, depending on the employee that you get, hopefully, if someone's nice, they actually do have something. I know, for example, I've done stuff at Macy's before, many chain stores, and they often have a sale of some kind, express, all sorts. Just depends on your specific location. But I'm speaking as a New Yorker, because those are the popular places that people shop where I'm from, which is in New York. Now, adding on to maybe the shopping side, another big thing that you really want to consider is to really think about, when you're just physically buying things in general, about quality and versatility. So what I mean by this is that because a lot of times they say for many, many things you buy, such as the most prominent example is shoes, it is sometimes a lot better to maybe even try, if you can, it's obviously difficult, but if you can, try to think about buying quality if you feel that that something is going to last a lot longer. That might even be cheaper in the long run than if you try to save immediate money and just buy something that might be cheaper, but maybe won't last as long as well. The other big thing maybe adding to that is also to consider trying to, when you're shopping and making decisions on what to buy, to really think about versatility. So what does this exactly mean is that in many, many things that you buy, for example, like let's say you're buying furniture or even clothing. We're going to stick with the clothing idea. This is obviously not a fashion channel, but the big idea is that when you're selecting what clothes to buy, there are many times where you can try to see if you can buy like an article of clothing or a particular furniture or a particular product of some kind that can have many different uses. So for example, like if you're using, let's say for example, you're doing shoe shopping, right? There are some times where you might be able to, you might be deciding between should I get this shoe or that shoe or that shoe or that shoe, but there are some shoes where it's a lot easier to pair with different colors. This is especially true if this is something that's a very neutral like color. So for example, the other day, again, this is from real life experience. Again, it's not a fashion channel, so we're going to talk very briefly about it. But when I was deciding between whether or not I should get this sneaker or that sneaker or that sneaker, one of the things that was going on through my mind is where would I actually be able to physically wear this particular something? Because sometimes people might buy something where it's very just occasional, where you just might buy it and it's just kind of like a one done. The most prominent example is Halloween. A lot of times people will buy a costume, they wear it once, and then we don't know if they're going to wear it again. So you want to see if you can try to, when you're making shopping decisions, to just think about what you think can make a lot of uses. If that happens to be sneakers, I tend to try to sometimes buy things that are very neutral in color, like black shoes especially, over things that are very flashy, and especially over white shoes. Nothing about, white shoes are very nice and all that, but the idea is that it's just typically because solid colors, you tend to be able to have them for more uses. And I think that's something that can really save money. So you don't have to buy so many of that something and you just buy a couple pieces, but really be able to reuse it. Again, this goes with this furniture. You can get a sofa couch or one of those couches that you have a bed. So now you're buying a couch and a bed at the same time. And this is just a couple examples, multi-use silverware, all of that stuff. That's basically the idea. Now, the fifth tip, maybe, to be able to start to save money, and this is something that was very major for me, but I will admit it really depends on your specific location, is to try to see if you can cut car expense. This is either you have to either be in a place where you maybe don't need a car per se, but it's kind of a luxury. So in this case, consider maybe just not even having a car in general, actually. Or the other thing that you can maybe do is that if you absolutely have to have a car, I would say try to see if you can maybe limit how much you use that particular car. And why do I say this is because, especially right now, and feel free to share what it's like in your particular situation, gas is one of the things when it comes to the world of inflation that has actually really skyrocketed over the, actually not over the year, I was going to say over the years, no, literally just recently, over the last couple of weeks. The last inflation report, if I remember correctly, it was reported that gas went up about 20%. So if you are driving and using gas over and over again, unless you absolutely need it, that's why I say it's a little bit of a, case-by-case scenario, it really adds up. Feel free to share what the price of gas is like in your particular state and area, because I've had friends, for example, in California that apparently tell me it's apparently hit like $7 right now or something like that. So it is a lot of money. I also would actually really recommend, if you're healthy and good enough to do this, is to consider getting a bike. I'm personally someone that doesn't have a car. I'm actually a biker, interestingly enough. And why I love biking so much is, aside from the fact that it's also good for your health, which means that maybe you can save a lot of money if you're, able to stay healthy, because healthcare in this country is very expensive. So it's not only good for your health if you decide to, let's say, start walking more, start taking public transportation, because again, many times people have to walk to the public transportation or bike. It's not only is it better for your health, so maybe you can potentially save money there, but it's also just the actual thing is cheaper because you buy the bike once. Bikes are cheaper than cars, and you can just ride it within a couple maintenance fees. You could just ride it over and over again, and it's just really nice and easy. And I think that's one of the big things why I love biking very much. So these are just some things, because transportation is a very major thing. Airlines, that's maybe another story we're going to talk about, but there are definitely ways to save on airlines. I rarely personally take Uber, Lyfts, or anything like that, but this is just one area that I'm particularly frugal on. But of course, everyone has very different values, different locations, and different lifestyles that they really believe in and want to go by. And then I would say probably the last tip that we're really going to share, which is really more of a step, is that once you're able to cut a lot of these costs, you want to actually take the money that you save and put it aside. So what it is that because when you're trying to save money, it's really, really nice. Obviously, you know, that we're trying to save as much money as possible, but you also ideally maybe want to create like a new bank account or a separate bank account or a physical jar or a physical envelope. But the idea is that you want to actually physically take that money and put it somewhere separate from your typical expenses, so you know that that's basically your emergency expense and all of the stuff that you might buy that can really be able to get locked in. But beyond this is that that's what I really wanted to just share in today's video. There are so many things that I can share. Maybe feel free to comment if you hopefully found something insightful or might like a part 2 to this. I just, you know, for time sensitive reasons, that's really what I wanted to share. So that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay safe, stay well. Remember to smash the like button if you guys haven't done so. Consider subscribing, and feel free to comment, honestly, any suggestions, tips, or maybe what you currently think or what you guys have been doing. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay safe, stay well, and save some money, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.